Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. I'm gonna pop up this picture that I found that I've had with me for some time, and I think it'll give a pretty good clue as to how my life really began. So that's can everybody see my screen? All right. Yeah. So that's me, cute little wide-eyed baby. Eyeing down that delicious silvery cores beer can. Um, so just thought I would share that. And let me close this, stop sharing right here. So that's the environment that I grew up in. My actually my father, he was a chef in the Navy, and he also managed several restaurants as I was a kid. And that's really where I learned, how to cook. And so at the age of 16, I started flipping pizzas as my official, first paid job. And I worked my way through college, living the lifestyle of a transient cook throughout several kitchens. And after college, I think the universe gave me a chance to leave the industry for good as I went into the corporate world to use my degree. Um, but I learned that a lot of my addictions that I had throughout my life followed me around no matter what. Um, and so then around 2008, the 2008 crash, the corporate world and corporate job that I had pretty much died. And so after that, I was just hustling for work. And at one point, I remember I was working for a brewery, and this was in Colorado. So we had some really delicious craft beer. And so I was hustling beer at the time, and also in Colorado, I was surrounded by legal and medical marijuana, and so there was a lot of my addictions were really being met no matter what I was doing. And you know, throughout all of these hustle jobs, I thought there was something missing in my life, and so I wondered if it was the job itself and whether or not I was passionate about it, and maybe there's something that I should be doing that I'm really good at. And I just remembered that working in the kitchens, I had a lot of fun. And so I thought to myself, maybe this is what I'm really meant to do. And so I broke my knives out, and I jumped back into a kitchen, and there I was back on the line every night with a shift drink or two in my hands. And some nights I even wondered how the hell I got home. Um, at the time, I was also engaged to be married, and I even got her a job as one of the servers at the restaurant that we worked at. And she also loved the wine and cocktails just as much. And so we had this really interesting bipolar relationship that was fueled with toxicity and addiction. And eventually, we ended up getting married, and literally on our honeymoon, I was yelling in the middle of the streets of Vietnam that I wanted a divorce. And it didn't happen until 3 years later, but I finally got my wish, and it really devastated me. It was really that started my rock bottom, and I went into a pretty deep depression. And at the time, I was doing some catering. I was cooking for some of the Denver Nuggets players, and I decided I was done. I put my knives down. I just had no passion or spirit left in me. Netflix became my new girlfriend, and we were sharing late nights together with booze and weed. Um, and so that was kind of a good year of my life doing that. And I finally started seeing a therapist, and after maybe a couple of therapists, and after some trial and error and a combination of depression meds that caused vertigo and literally 2 weeks of insomnia where I couldn't sleep. I was laying in bed one day, and I was staring at a box of bullets, wondering if that was going to be a better solution. And but I really didn't want to. I really didn't want to die. I knew there was something else out there. And so I started searching for alternative ways to manage depression and, other than therapy and pharma drugs. And that's when I came across meditation. And so I started going to these qigong classes on occasion, which helped a little. And then one day, a friend of mine gave me this book called "Who I Am and Why I'm Here," and that's really what changed my life. It was a book that taught me how to meditate and why, and it was like one of those books that was just like really out there. And but it allowed me to really tap into what meditation was and the profound transformation that it can have. Um, but I was having my swings. I was having my ups and downs, and I entered into relationships where I sabotaged them with my polarity, and I'd have my highs and my lows, and I wasn't really practicing meditation regularly. And it's a habit and a practice that you have to develop. And in the beginning, I think for me it was a quick fix that made me feel better, and it did. And so I thought, well, great, I feel great. I don't need this anymore. I'm all better. Fast forward a few more years, and after Denver, I moved out here to San Diego around 2017, and that was a pretty incredibly challenging year. There was a death in the family, and just more trauma, and my drinking and tobacco use turned into a real problem. I think I was using one of those vape pens to quit smoking, but I ended up sucking on that thing like a bottle because I could smoke indoors. And after a while, I'd have a couple of cocktails, and it would take me several days to recover from it. I think I gained like 50 pounds. I was having terrible indigestion. Overall, my energy was incredibly low. And I could feel like I was slipping back into a depression. And so I finally I went and saw this new therapist to fix my brain of the foggy headedness and the lack of motivation and the swings and the tiredness and all that stuff. And he made me fill out this 400 question survey and hooked me up to one of those EEGs with all the wires coming out of my head and to measure brain activity. And he told me, he's like, I can help you, but it would be all for nothing if I didn't quit drinking. And so he called me out. He called me out on my shit, and I knew it, and I knew it was a big problem. And so right then and there, back in February of 2018, I called it quits. I said I gave it up because I felt like I had the help to do it finally. And so quitting the booze and working with the therapist, it helped a little bit, but I kept having these swings. It wasn't quite sitting and connecting. And so I told the therapist this. I'm like, look, I don't know if this is working or not. And so he said, hey, let's try something different. I'm like, all right, what do you got? I'm open to anything now. And he's like, go try and do some ketamine. Like, are you kidding? Wait, what? The horse tranquilizer? He's like, no, it's actually it's being used as depression treatment. And so I agreed. I was like, all right, I'll try anything at this point. And I did, and I think that's when the healing journey for me really began. And I think anyone who's looked into or experienced healing through natural or alternative medicine might be able to relate to this. But once I figured out that, in these, medicine journeys, that underneath all the sadness, underneath all the addiction, underneath all the highs and lows and everything, I discovered it was all childhood trauma. That was the key. And so once I decided to discover all the trauma and working through some of it, that's when the real change began. And because of my journey through these alternative medicines, I was finally able to stabilize myself enough. But the healing journey still continues, and once you cut that up, once you cut that onion open and start peeling back all the layers, the trauma can be deeper and more difficult to work with, which is what I'm learning. Um, and I've discovered that I've got some really freaky stuff that happened to me when I was a kid, stuff like sexual abuse that I had no idea, like none. I totally blacked out like my entire childhood. Um, our brains are so good at hiding this trauma when we're kids, and it has a real deep effect on how we live and react in this world. Um, and so for the past couple of years, I've experienced different methods of healing with and without these medicine journeys, and working with different energy healers and shamans. And I also get to see a lot of people doing this work, and I can really see the change happening in them and in me. It's quantifiable. I can honestly say that I'm way more happier today, and have rarely any suicidal thoughts or anything like that. And all the work has been on my end. It hasn't been working with directly with like a therapist. I've become my own therapist through all this stuff. And so where does that land me today? So in my career today, I actually work with a company that has developed software for the food industry. And it's this platform that we've developed to help chefs and kitchens manage all their recipes and all their day-to-day stuff like inventory and purchasing and production. And it's got some really awesome benefits. But what I'm most excited about is that through this company, it's called Galley. Through this company, we can actually realize tangible results through the technology, and to see how it's having an effect, and having an effect on like stress levels in the kitchen and things like that. And so at the same time that we're also looking at, we're also looking at other ways to create community wellness programs to help this industry, because that's where I think the true pandemic is in the food industry. And it's just wrought with addiction, underlined with all this childhood trauma. So at the company, we've even created like a community wellness playbook, and that's how I came to meet Belinda, who's doing some wonderful work with the in the peer-to-peer area. And so in the past couple of months, working with a lot of this, I think I've realized my new mission in this industry is to help others realize a path of true healing. And so, I've actually I've started working with what she calls herself a psychedelic integration practitioner, and we actually host 2 group meetings a month to help educate people who are considering working with these medicines for healing, or who have already started and want more integration, because that's where the real work is. And whether or not you do healing work through the assistance of these medicines, or it's the integration work or community, peer-to-peer healing, that's where it all matters. So we started doing some of this work, and getting people together, and it's really this community healing aspect, much like the talks that we're having right now, sharing our experiences, because that's where we're able to connect and relate with somebody, and have true understanding. So that's my story, and yeah, thank you so much for letting me be here and share that today. It's really awesome. And if anybody is interested in learning more about these integration groups that we're doing, please feel free to connect with me. It's an educational, only group. We don't share how to get this stuff or anything like that. It's mostly for educational purposes. So